Remember that Safaricom line that you abandoned because perhaps you couldn't remember the password or something happened and you decided to register another number. So that Safaricom line, it must have had some M-Pesa balances, even if it is 2 bob, 100, perhaps 1,000 shillings. And you completely forgot about it. The question is, where did that money go to? Does it mean it was a donation that you did to Safaricom? Think about any other line. It could have been a U line, an Orange line, or even an Airtel line. We, at one point or the other, all of us have had more than one line. And we are usually not very keen to ensure that we have a zero balance at the end of the day. So all this money, think about those people who relocate from Kenya and they go abroad in a rush. They are not able to ensure that all their lines that they were using here in Kenya or even bank accounts, they have zero balances. Think about those people who die with so much money in the bank accounts, maybe in the SACCOs. It could be they had some investment they were doing in different investment firms, Old Mutual. It could be insurance firms, Britam, ICEA. When you abandon your financial resources and the people who are supposed to be custodian of those funds, they try to look for you, they cannot trace you, what happens to those money? Do you think at the end of the day they say, we are very lucky, this is a jackpot for us, we need to use this money? Or do they donate to a children's home or something like that? The question is, that money that you had earned, you had spent so much time to earn, which you earned through sweat, tears, and blood sometimes. How do you then just abandon this money? Remember, if this money was not abandoned and that it was properly used or invested, there is a concept of compounding interest, where when you place a small amount of money, that money, it attracts interest. And then at the end of 1 year, the interest that it had attracted, when we are starting the second year, that interest starts also to generate and attract further interest. So you end up with a situation whereby the original money generated some interest, and then there's interest on that interest. It is called the compounding interest. Basically meaning that a little amount of money can end up being so much. So let us not despise those humble beginnings. So there is a government institution that is referred as Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority. Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority is the government organ where all people, all organizations that deal with financial assets, be it commercial banks that are regulated by CBK, be it insurance firms that are regulated by Insurance Regulatory Authority, be it SACCOs that are regulated by SASRA, be it investment firms regulated by RBA and CMA, all those, in case they had a client, even telecommunication firms like Safaricom, in case they had a client who had invested with them or saved some money with them, and at some point they no longer see or find, or that person no longer transacts with them, within 2 years, they are supposed to abandon and deactivate those accounts. Remember, every other time the bank keeps asking you, we need you to update your records. Perhaps the KYC documents, if it is a company, at one point or the other, they ask for CR12, that document that shows who are the real owners of the company at a certain point. So now, the reason the banks continue and financial institutions continue to do that is to ensure that at any given point, they are dealing with the rightful owner. But they are required by their respective authorities to remit the funds, any unclaimed financial resources, to the Unclaimed Financial Authority. an Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority. It could be a company that maybe you had invested some shares, you forgot about that, perhaps you are so busy, or maybe someone close to you. It could have been your relative, maybe a father, maybe a mother, maybe a brother who died and had not prepared a will. So if a person dies without preparing a will, it becomes very hard for the surviving family members to know where this person had invested their money. But now I have some good news. Even if someone dies without having a valid will, and it is said you can die in one of these two ways. You can die testate or you can die intestate. Dying testate is when you die after preparing a valid will that will be used to distribute your estate once you are no longer there to your near and dear ones. You give instructions how your monies, how your resources will be distributed to your family members or even friends. But when you die intestate is when you didn't have the chance or the knowledge or the opportunity to prepare a will showcasing or giving guidance how your money and estate will be distributed upon your death. So in such a case, these people, they leave so much financial resources everywhere. And now I have the good news. You don't have to worry that maybe your near and dear ones, your relative, your father, your brother left some unknown wealth somewhere. As long as it was in the form of financial asset. Financial asset, we are referring to something like money, that is cash, shares, bonds, investment in circles, everything that is financial asset. Financial asset, we have mainly two types of assets: physical assets and financial assets. Physical assets are the cars, the vehicles, the laptops, the buildings, the land, real estate products. But when it comes to financial assets, basically we are talking about shares, bonds, and cash. So if it was, he left something in form of financial assets, including a bank balance somewhere, those financial institutions were supposed or are supposed within a period of 2 years to suspend those bank accounts, and within a period of 5 years to remit everything to Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority. And this is a government body. So that any person who feels or is not sure whether he ever abandoned a Safaricom or Airtel line or bank account somewhere, if you visit Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority website, they have a search option. You go there, you put your ID number or your full name or the ID number of your relative or their name, and you search, and you see every other unclaimed financial asset that they have been registered with the authority with respect to those names or those ID numbers. I did that, and recently I was very shocked that in the past I had about 3 different lines that I could not remember about, Safaricom lines, and I abandoned them. And they are listed there on Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority as I left, I think they had less than 1,000 shillings in them. And therefore, if it was some reasonable amount of money, I would have decided to follow with Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority so that those financial resources could finally be reunited with me. However, since it was a small amount, I realized that I might spend too much time chasing some small little cash. But the question is, you need to visit Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority website and search and start with your name. You never know. Then put the names of maybe some of your family members who could have passed on or in the past 5-10 years, and see whether they left something. You could help someone. Maybe it is your brother or your sibling, and they had kids, but they died. And the kids could really, really benefit if you can search for the names of their father on Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority, who knows, you can get something. And when you get something, you would have it processed so that that family, those children that were left by their parent, can get something. Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority, it is the organization that is owned by the government with the purpose of reuniting financial assets with their rightful owners after a period of time, after those resources have been abandoned. And if the rightful owner is not there, then those resources are given to the next of kin, or the people who are either mentioned in the will of the deceased, or the people who are near and dear ones to the deceased person. So nothing is supposed to go to waste. We spend so much time working hard and trying to mobilize resources. And when we have those resources, sometimes we don't really take care of them. They get abandoned. And when they get abandoned, it is other people who profit. At the end of the day, if no one claims those financial assets are the ones that are supposed to do for us roads, to do for us dams, to do for us other public infrastructure. But before then, the government has to ensure that it has tried as much as possible to create awareness for people to go and search and look and search for those financial assets that they could have been abandoned. As we speak, the unclaimed financial assets that organization has been able to accumulate over time is close to 500 billion Kenya shillings. And we keep seeing banks, financial institutions being penalized and fined by the authority for not remitting the unclaimed financial assets to the authority. If it is Equity Bank, if it is KCB Bank or Britam Insurance, they are not supposed to benefit from those abandoned financial assets. All they are supposed to do is the rightful thing and surrender those financial assets to Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority. And now when you and me search, we could be able to get something that we either abandoned or someone near and dear to us abandoned, and we can be able to have them, the money process, the resources process, so that the rightful dependent and beneficiaries can be able to benefit from that. When you know better, you do better.